The year is 2020, the beginning of the pandemic. Years of war in Yemen left the country divided between multiple armed groups. The northwestern part, colored in green, are the areas controlled by the Houthis, and the central part in red is the territory controlled by the government. The eastern part, colored white, is controlled by Al-Qaeda. As we can see on the map, the government forces are very weak. They don't control either the main capital or the second capital of the country. Their territory is vast, but mostly desert, with a few major cities. Right below them are the southern separatists, colored in yellow, and they control Aden, the capital of former South Yemen. Next, let's look into the most powerful groups on this map, Al-Qaeda and the Houthis. The Houthis are sheer rebels. They control around a quarter of the country, including its capital Sana'a. And finally, let's meet Al-Qaeda. They control around 100,000 square kilometers, which is roughly the size of South Korea. Their territory divides the entire country in two, and contains multiple villages, oil fields, coastline, and a large part of the border with Saudi Arabia, giving them a strong strategic position. There is, however, one slight problem with this. It's not real. And my research into why it wasn't led into a rabbit hole, one that includes circular referencing, over-reliance on mainstream media and maps, and finally the job of connecting the dots into what exactly was going on in Yemen since 2012. And let me tell you, there was a lot. I first wondered to myself, if Al-Qaeda had control over such a large area, numerous villages, wouldn't this be a topic of much attention? I used both the English and the Arabic language to begin researching the villages and towns that were reportedly in their area of control. Every single one, and I repeat, every single one of these villages and towns had no mention of any Al-Qaeda presence, never mind control. There were reports of movements of government forces, openings of hospitals, and even humanitarian operations being carried out there. It really felt like this entire Al-Qaeda Emirate had no impact on local politics. To solve this conundrum, I began looking up which sources were used to lead to such a situation, and the least I can say was that I came to a strange conclusion. The map you saw some time ago was based on the detailed map page of the Yemeni civil war, an interactive page where users could plot individual points and edit the map. I was lucky as all edits were logged, and I could easily track who edited each area and maybe find out why they did it. As I began digging deeper into the origins, I found an edit where a lot of small villages supposedly controlled by Al-Qaeda were added to the map. I looked into the sources and the date of this edit and found out that it was made on the 29th of September in 2015, sourcing a map by Islamic World News, a pro-Houthi propaganda piece. However, when I looked at the map, it was clear to me this was based off of a previous Wikipedia edit. IWN used this Wikipedia map to make a more detailed and colored map, and Wikipedia users used this IWN map to extrapolate the towns and villages in between as Al-Qaeda controlled, leading to circular referencing. I began to dig further into the root of this. An edit was made to the Wikipedia map of the conflict, adding the Al-Masila oil field to Al-Qaeda's control, linking their two pockets. However, when I looked into the sources, I found that Yemeni forces did in fact withdraw from the oil field, but they handed it over to the Tribal Alliance, remember them, they'll get mentioned later, to prevent its capture by Al-Qaeda. So what happened here is that Wikipedia users misinterpreted prevention as capitulation. A few months earlier, the Al-Wadeir border crossing with Saudi Arabia was added to Al-Qaeda control, based on a report by Reuters that they captured an outpost there. This was added on the 17th of April 2015. Now we get to the funny part. A month later, it was clarified that it was captured by the Houthis, and the Al-Qaeda capture of it was simply Houthi propaganda. I plunged further into the abyss and found a shining gem. I found the first Wikipedia map of the conflict that looked similar to the modern ones we have today. When I looked into its sources, I found that it was based on a map by Markmon Monnier, an expert in cartography. Now it's time for the next funny thing. You see, Mark is famous for making a book ironically titled How to Lie with Maps. The map created an amalgamation of connecting the dots around the country, all of which were, of course, based on the Wikipedia map itself. Circular referencing has struck once again. Getting back to the original interactive map, it was created on the 24th of October 2014. The main source cited for everything leading up to this was a map by arch-civilians. It showed a large area under the control of, well, the map grouped many groups into one color, including Al-Qaeda, Al-Isla, as well as the Hadramaut Tribal Alliance, an allied group of local tribes created, ironically, to fight Al-Qaeda. And what were the dots on the map based on? You won't believe it. It was based on an earlier Wikipedia template on the conflict. Circular referencing is truly inescapable. This earlier map was created on the 24th of June 2014 by a Wikipedia user named Jumada. It was fairly simple, showing just two Hadramaut cities, Tarim and Al-Mukalla, under the control of Al-Qaeda affiliated groups and the South Yemen movement as per legend. It was quite weird considering the southern separatists are not allied with Al-Qaeda and have even gone so far as to fight them. I have finally reached the point where it all began. Different groups not allied with Al-Qaeda were grouped with them together in one color, which led to an overestimation of their control. Now, one question remained. Why did Jumada group Al-Qaeda and the Southerners together? He didn't cite any sources when making the map, so it's hard to say for sure. However, upon further research, I believe the most likely reason is this map. This map was made in 2012 by Political Geography Now, which showed southern provinces having the presence of Al-Qaeda and the Southern Movement. You can see here that the map shows the presence of Al-Qaeda and the Southern forces based on the province borders. Since both of these groups had a presence in the same provinces, we can likely conclude that Jumada colored the cities held by both groups with the same color. This one mistake from 2014 would lead to this journey and years of mistakes. This is where it all began, the genesis of this adventure you have been observing. So you may now be wondering, what did they get right, if anything? Was this all a trick to fool us? Why did so many people depict Al-Qaeda as having a presence in eastern Yemen? There is always a grain of truth in these situations. From April 2015 to April 2016, Al-Qaeda controlled the coastal part of the province of Hadramaut, including the city of Al-Mukalla and neighboring districts. What is also true is that after being kicked out of the area by an offensive led by the coalition, they moved to the western part of the province around the Dawan district, where they maintained their presence until 2018, when they were kicked out by the Emirate-led Black Mountains offensive, an area which ironically none of the mainstream maps mark under their presence. What is not true, Al-Qaeda does not and never did control the Wadi Hadramaut area and the northern part of the province. The area was always under the control of pro-government 1st Military District and Hadramaut Tribal Alliance, as you can see on this map of the current situation in the country that I prepared. Any map that shows Al-Qaeda presence there is based on the same old mistake and has no connection to reality. So what did I do to fix this mistake? The first thing I did was write a long comment on the talk page of the template with all the sources I found. There is a link to it in the description below. I then removed Al-Qaeda presence from all of Hadramaut province and updated the map on the Wikipedia info box. The next thing I did was correct the mistake on maps of the conflict by contacting some mappers. I contacted Kupinator, the creator of the famous Yemeni Civil War video, and he would go to fix this age-old mistake in his update video on the Yemeni Civil War. I also tried to contact Islamic World News, and there was no response. I also contacted Syriac Maps, and got blocked. My contact with Political Geography Now was partially successful. They changed the control in the area to presence. Despite all my most sincere efforts, the Al-Qaeda Emirate in the eastern part of Yemen still persists on multiple professional maps made by mainstream sources. I made a compilation of the ridiculous maps of this fake and made-up entity. Let the clownery begin. At the end of the video, I want to emphasize one thing. I don't want to imply that any person or organization mentioned in the video acted in bad faith or deliberately conspired to make up this emirate. I do believe that most of them were working with very limited information on this complicated and hard-to-access conflict. The mistake was the result of a lot of misunderstandings, overly broad labeling, cytogenesis of mainstream maps using Wikipedia, and then Wikipedia editors using these maps to add even more areas. I'm personally friends with some of the people involved in mapping this conflict, and I know they made the best assumptions they could. I hope that the video will reach the organizations that are still marking Al-Qaeda controlled territory in the eastern part of Hadramaut province and prompt them to finally remove it. Now, you might be thinking, what is the real Al-Qaeda emirate? It is none other than the friends we made along the way during research. So, did you guys like the video? Since this video is done, you can be a friend too. Give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching this video. This was voiced by Demet at Boris's request, with special thanks to Violet for the help in editing the script. See you later.